Welcome to the Nick and Nick podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Royalty Roofing and Siding. Crown your home and your commercial property, then wrap it with royalty. Today we got a guest on the podcast. His name is Tim Welch from Autumn Life Coaching. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
All the way from Blair, Nebraska for this episode?
Yes.
A country mile.
A country mile.
North of Omaha,
Yes.
Blair, Nebraska. I'll never forget that one.
Woodhouse Ford.
Yeah. Hey, but thanks for joining us on the podcast today. Really appreciate you taking the time. We've had some dialogue via text.
Yes.
I want to talk about some of that if you don't mind. Yep. But also, obviously, you're an amputee. We want to hear your story.
Okay.
You're a life coach. You're an author.
Yes.
You're what else? You're a chaplain.
Chaplain.
What else?
We have a yoga studio. Yep. We work with people that we've primarily focus on anybody, but we really want to put focus towards people that have lack of mobility, that are struggling, that have some sort of health issues, because we create programs based around their specific needs. Physical
and mental?
Yes.
Both?
Yes.
Okay, kind of like a Swiss Army knife you are.
Yes. Yes, very much so.
Okay, now you got a story too. You're also a personal trainer, right?
I am a personal trainer and nutritionist. I work with Genesis Fitness. I also offer nutrition through our business as well. We kind of like to be well-rounded, and our mission is to be able to help people on all aspects. So
when you say our, you're referencing Autumn Life Coaching. So Yes. It's a multifaceted approach to wellness.
Yes. Yep.
What all's involved with Autumn Life?
So I work with trauma and crisis patients.
Okay. That's the chaplain arm of it?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I also work with people that have lost lack of mobility, to be able to give them their independence back and show them how to readapt.
Okay.
When I had my accident, nobody came in and showed me anything. And so everything that I've learned on my own. We would have people come in and teach the strength side of things and learn how to use your prosthetics. But as far as the everyday skills, nobody ever showed me. So it was important for me to be able to take what I've learned and give back to the people that are struggling.
Right.
And especially when they're older, if they've, because a lot of people, when they have a stroke, amputation from, health reasons, you feel like you're lost.
Right.
And no pun intended, they feel like they've lost part of themselves and they're going to be dependent on somebody else. And I don't ever want anybody to feel the way that I did. And I literally took the steps on my own to be able to teach myself how to do it.
Right. You've been on your own since you were, 15, I think?
Yes.
Why don't we back up all the way, if you don't mind?
Yep.
Obviously, you have one arm, one leg.
Yes.
The other ones have been, well, just tell our audience a story.
So when
I've read a little bit about it. I've seen a little bit about the Nebraska public media thing, but
Yes. Yep. When I was 14, I was hit by a train.
Okay.
I was at home working on homework, and I got a call from my mom and said, "You need to come up and have dinner." The tracks were 3 blocks from our house, and when I got to the tracks, there were 2 sets of tracks.
Okay.
The north set of tracks were nothing but box cars, no engine on either side, wasn't going to move. And at 14, you think you're invincible.
Right. So you remember this like it was yesterday?
I was awake.
Okay.
Yeah, I passed. I died for a short time, but they said they brought me back.
So hold on. What? You died for a short time?
Yes.
And they brought you back?
Yes. Yep.
Right there on the train tracks? Or are we talking about?
Yep, on the tracks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then, but when I got to the tracks, they were blocked. So I climbed the hitch. When I come out around the corner, or when I come around the edge of the box car, there were 2 engines pushing a box car, and there was an engineer on the edge, and he yelled, "Look out," and I jumped. And it dragged me roughly a quarter of a mile. He thought he had a hold of me. I remember him telling me, "Hold on, kid, I got you." And he went to lift me up, and I slipped out of his hands, and it took me under. And my doctor was there. He got up underneath the train and got me prepped. Life Flight, Rescue Squad, all of that got there. There was actually family working on me that did not realize it was me. The only reason they knew it was me is because they found my identification. And then they Life Flighted me to Omaha, St. Joe's at the time.
Right.
And I was in ICU for a week, and I was in the hospital for the remaining of a month.
So you were 14?
Yes.
Ish?
Yep, 14, just getting ready to turn 15.
So pretty traumatic,
Yes.
obviously.
Yes,
You remember everything.
I do. I saw my leg, and when it happened, the limbs were taken. The leg was taken at the knee, and the arm was taken at the elbow. So much was destroyed, they had to take more off. But I remember seeing my leg. There's so many things of that day that were very vivid and
Right.
will forever stick in my mind. But my accident never bothered me. I think being awake while it happened, I think was a big part of why it did not bother me, because it wasn't a shock when I woke up
Right.
the next day in the hospital. Now, when I woke up the next day, they asked me if I knew what happened. I said, yes, I lost my leg. And they said, you also lost your arm. I was fine. I was alive, It was,
Right.
and, while I was in the hospital, having people come in and talk to me that had been through something like this before, as far as an accident, and talking to me, that helped tremendously. And I think
Okay.
that was a big reason of why I wanted to be able to take what I went through and help other people, because it's very difficult to be in that position and having all of these nurses, doctors, psychologists, whatever, come in and say, we understand what you're going through.
Right.
No, you don't.
Right.
You may understand the logistics of it, but you don't understand what I'm going through. So,
And frankly, that's not their job, right?
No.
Their job is to keep you alive.
yes. And it's, I would get to a point where I would start to get frustrated, because they would come in and tell me, again, I understand what you're going through.
Right.
Even when it came to wearing the prosthetics, I understand what you're going through. Until you put one on, please don't tell me that you know what I'm going through. It was very patronizing.
Right.
And then I was a Shriners kid until I was 18. And there was one of the doctors at the Shriners Hospital in Minneapolis. He had came in. He said, look, you got to put these on. You got to wear. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, stop telling me that. And he lifted up his pant leg, and he was missing his.
Okay.
So he understood. And
Okay.
so he's like, look, I get it.
Okay.
But he understood at the level of what I was referring to, the uncomfortable, the pain, the hurt. Make this feel easy. Make this feel more comfortable.
Right.
And it wouldn't be so hard to wear. So I think that's why it's been so important for me to be able to be there for people. I will never tell anybody I understand what they're going through. I will have some sort of understanding, and I can relate. But
Yeah.
I will never you can have two people that have gone through the exact same thing, and they will both handle it differently.
Completely different.
And
yeah.
so, I don't have a cookie cutter mold of how every situation is handled. Every situation is different, and every situation needs to be handled with kid gloves.
What does that mean?
Very carefully.
Oh,
Very,
okay.
With gentle, being
Cautious.
gentle and cautious,
Yep.
and kindness, and just being very careful about your approach.
So you were 14.
Yes.
You also said you've been on your own since you were 15. So
Yes.
within the same year-ish?
Yeah, it was. I came from a very bad home, so on top of the things that I was going on at home, it was then. My mom had been in and out of the hospital, not being able to deal with what she had dealt with. My stepdad.
As it related to you?
Yes.
Or
And
just
then-
generally?
Just in general, but
Okay.
the accident kind of
Yeah.
tipped it.
Yep.
And then my stepdad left shortly thereafter, and the family, they took my sister in, but nobody would take me in because they felt I was a liability. Nobody wanted to, I had the hospital bed and all of the hospital care that needed to be.
So this was in the thick of it then?
Yes.
When all this was happening?
Yes. And then, it was my grandma was the one that, came in and made sure that everything was taken care of, and just, you got to keep it quiet. But she was there in the morning when I got home from school, and when I was there in the evening.
Your grandma?
Yes.
She's still around?
No, she's not.
But that was tough.
So, off and on, mom would get out of the hospital, and a few months later, she's back in.
Right.
And so it was very much a battle of my own. So,
Since 15?
yes,
I did read that you graduated from high school.
I did. I was, I have a tutor that had come in, and they had told me I would not graduate with my class. I missed all of my second semester of my freshman year, and I worked endlessly to be able to make sure that summer I made up my entire second semester of school up in that summer so I could graduate with my class.
Wow. So in the thick of that, backing up a little bit, you mentioned that you said you had died.
Yes.
How do you know that?
Several of them had told me.
Okay.
That, and it was...
That means you bled out, basically, on the tracks.
I did bleed out. And that was one of the things that they could not figure out how I survived.
Right.
They said they could not keep the blood in me. And
that's what I heard a little bit about your story. You wouldn't die.
No, I couldn't. I wasn't going anywhere. I told the Grim Reaper no. And in that as well, it also has given me an understanding of, death in itself. Everybody fears death. Mm-hmm. Being somebody that has been there, and as traumatic as everything was in that moment, mm-hmm. I try to explain to people, and it's hard for people to fathom because they're not there.
Exactly.
But to give people an understanding that it is one of the calmest, I don't even know really how to word it. It's one of the calmest sensations it's like falling into a deep sleep. No matter how traumatic it was of what I was going through in that moment, it is truly just like falling into a deep sleep.
It's like there's like nothing you can do about it. You can't
there's-
fight it. You
can't
just
fight it.
subject
It's just
yourself
there.
to the
But,
outcome.
Everybody, I've talked to people that know my story and they will ask, and I will be like, look, everybody passes differently, but I can tell you that for me, that transition was a very calm, soothing. There was no
Right.
fear.
Right.
There was nothing there, and it was just done.
Yeah.
And then
That's a trauma related.
Yes.
Is that an arm of Autumn Life Coaching then, like hospice type of chaplain?
I can, and I do so I've worked with first responders. I've worked with the police departments. I've worked with fire and rescue, and now I'm with a hospital. They will call me if there are patients that are struggling, and there are times where if it's really bad, I will, get called to the ER mm-hmm. and be there with the families, the nurses, the doctors, if there's things that they can't wrap their head around, or the families in their,
Right.
in their moments. It's just having somebody there, knowing that, you have that support. And if there's things that they need, we can, we'll do our best to be able to make sure that they're taken care of.
Right. Okay. So then you're 15, graduated high school at
18.
18.
Yep.
And then you have continuing ed after that.
Off and on, yes. So I have several degrees, actually. I have a degree as a motorcycle technician. Yeah.
I told you, the Swiss Army knife.
Yep. The only issue that I had there is, and again, it's just kind of one of those things where you face it in society, nobody would hire me because they didn't, if you can't ride a bike, you can't work,
Yeah.
if you can't work on a bike, ride a
Right.
bike type of thing. And so I did it on my own with a partner of mine for a while. And then when he passed, it was just kind of, it was definitely a two-man job.
Yeah. How many no's have you gotten over the years based on?
I've got a lot of no's. I still get no's, and that's okay, because those no's are fuel for my fire. Mm-hmm. Even in the becoming a chaplain, I had several people that were on the path of me getting there that told me I would never make it and I would fail.
Right.
And that is not an option for me when, and I've done it myself. It is what it is, but it's, society judges off of appearance mm-hmm. and not off of experience. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Like
Right.
I said, everybody has an opinion, and that's okay.
So how has your education and experience equipped you to do what you're doing now?
So I have a bachelor's in criminal justice, which also has my psychology with that as well.
Okay.
So I have that. I have done, I was a victim's advocate for a crisis center. I do like the chaplain training through Douglas County.
Okay.
And then just real life experience as well. And a lot of times that's really the big,
Absolutely.
the big thing. And it's just knowing how to be able to, it's very stressful at times because you're taking on the weight of everything that's in that room in that moment. And it's knowing how to separate what you're going, what's going on in that situation versus your life. You have to keep those, you have to learn how to keep those separate. Sometimes it's hard, but it is to know that I'm the one that they trust to be there for them is a blessing.
The trust factor.
Yes.
How are you able to bridge that gap?
Yep. And that's where, for people to come to me, they have to, they're vulnerable. They are
Veterans, I think you mentioned. Work
yes.
with a lot of veterans, trauma.
Yep.
PTSD.
And with that, it's just, it's not, I don't know the serving side of it, but it is the aftermath side of it, of the hoops and hurdles that they're going to have to jump through and the struggles that they're going to have.
If there's a disability or something,
Yep, and your world has just completely changed. Especially when they're older, it is more difficult because they've lived their life one way for so long, and then all of a sudden that's stripped away from them. So how do you get them to understand that, there's a reason behind all of this? You just have to figure out what it is. Nobody can tell you what that reason is. You just have to kind of figure it out.
Right.
And, a lot of times they have the opportunity to take what they're going through and use those to help other people. But sometimes they get so far down, they can't help themselves, let alone helping anyone else.
Right.
So, in what I do, I kind of help them. I don't look backwards. We have to obviously find where's their key source of trauma or crisis. What's the focal point, and move forward. I don't like to, it's going backward does nothing. It's, you need to move forward, and showing them how to cope and the things that they can do to make their situation better, and kind of view it differently. There's times where I've worked with people, and there's sometimes I'll give them a list of questions that they have to answer, and when they have to answer them, then when we meet, then they will hand me the paper. Nope, I want you to read them out loud.
Right.
And then when they say them out loud and to someone else, sometimes there's things in there that it's a realization of, oh wow, I just said that. And I think it's, those questions are devised to be able to dig a little deeper than what you would normally think.
Right.
And that kind of helps get to the core issue of what they're dealing with, and help them heal and move forward.
Right.
Once you realize what the issue is, then you can fix it. But a lot of times, there's so many things going on at one time, they don't know what is that one core issue.
Right. Was there a moment in time that you kind of came to grips with, I'm not going to become a victim of what has happened to me? I'm actually going to use what has happened to me to thrust me into what I'm here to do, which is to love and serve others, and to help them in their time of need. And how did you get to that point? Because a lot of people that have been through what you've been through stay in where they're at.
Yes.
So if you're...
For me, I don't know if there's an exact point.
Right.
I had dreams of military that got wiped away.
Right.
And I hit a certain point where it's like, I really truly had no idea where I was going or what I was doing. And it's scary.
Right.
When you had a roadmap laid out and it's like, okay, here's where I'm going. All of a sudden it's like, oh, that's not there anymore.
Right.
I was in film and TV for, many, many years. I started getting into, and we kind of had this discussion a little bit when we were talking, working in film and TV. I got my start with like local haunted houses. And I did that stuff for 35 years. And that was the one world when society turned their back on me. That was
Yeah.
the one world that fully accepted me wholeheartedly. And I was always a creative individual anyway, very artistic. And it let me take my artistic level to a whole nother level.
Okay.
And, you know, with the multiple degrees and things that I do, I think I was trying to find myself, as I didn't know, you know, where was the path, because every time I had an idea, somebody would be like, oh, that's not reachable.
Right.
And so I stopped seeking people's approval, and I made my own path.
Right.
And, you know, you have to, you can't, you know, I can't worry about everybody else and, you know, what's going to make them happy. I have to worry about what's going to make myself happy.
How did you come to grips or to the conclusion that I'm going to trailblaze my own path or create my own runway or my own road? How did you determine the direction of that road that you were going to?
You know, so I'll go back. So after I had my accident, again, my accident never bothered me. But the one thing that I did, and this is where the signs were there. When I had my accident, the day they brought me out of, I guess this would answer your question.
Okay.
The day they brought me out of ICU, they put me into my own room. There was a girl my age brought into the room next to me, and she was losing her leg the next day from cancer.
Oh, wow.
But she had shut down. She wouldn't talk to the nurses and doctors. She wouldn't talk to her parents. And they needed to know that they wanted to make sure she understood. So I was out wheeling around, and they came and talked to my folks. Her folks did. And they asked what happened, and they told her. And they said, is there any way we can talk? They said, but he's happy. Why is he's like out moving around? They said,
Speaking of you, right?
We can't explain it.
Right.
So they said, would we be able to have a chat with him? And they said, yeah. So they came and found me, and they said, look, we're sorry for what happened, but we have a very big favor to ask you. Our daughter, they explained the situation. Daughter's losing her leg, and we just need to make sure she understands, but she will not talk to anybody. You have just gone through this. They said, would you be willing to go talk to her?
So you're at your point of greatest need, but yet your desire, your heart is to serve.
Yep. And so I should have never known at 14, dealing with everything I was dealing with in that moment, of how to handle this situation. And I just explained to them and the nurses and doctors, I said, if I go in there and I close that door, I ask that you keep the door closed till I come back out, because if I can get her to open up and somebody walks in, she may shut back down.
Right.
So I went in there, I spent 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And when I was done, she had asked me, she said, can you go find my folks? And I said, yes. And I went out and I said, she would like to talk to you. And they seemed very shocked at that. They went in, and I went back to my room, and they come back in and just tears. And they said, we do not know what you said to her. We do not want to know what you said to her. They said, but you got through to her in 2.5 hours. And that was something that we haven't been able to do for the last 2.5 months. That, I can say, was the point where I knew that, you know, it was, and after that, I would watch if something came across the news of somebody being hurt, at that time, a lot of people had been hit by trains. And I would go and talk to them, or I would go and talk to the family just to let them know, look, things are going to be okay. I still do.
Yeah. What's your strategy? How were you able to get through to that teenage girl that was getting ready to lose her leg?
It was really, I think it was just sitting down, talking to her normally, because I think that everybody was talking to her differently. Like, well, you're going to be different now, and that strips part of you.
I got you.
That makes you feel less of a person.
They were trying to prepare her for what the other side of what was getting ready to happen.
But I don't think that they did it in a helpful manner.
Obviously,
I think that what they were doing was probably more damaging, and I don't think they realized it. Nothing against what they were doing. I think they just do what they do. But being somebody that has been in that position, knowing how people talk down to you, they think you're different now. And that's not the case. It's at all. And so being treated as an equal to somebody that at that moment was in worse shape than she was in, and knowing that she was going to be in the same shape I was in, and I treated her as an equal. And I think that was probably what I'm only speaking from my personal opinion.
Right.
I don't know for sure. And it was somebody that we were the same age. So again, I wasn't talking down as a parent. I was talking to as a person that is going to,
Right.
I understand
We're in this
what
together,
you're about to go through. Yep. And that's the thing. And, reaching out to these people, it's just letting them know that, you're going to be okay.
Right.
But it's all in how they handle it. I've seen some that have completely went the other direction and have, died because of it. And, it's very heartbreaking because I had recently found out of a story of somebody that I had gone and talked to, and they went the polar opposite direction, and they're no longer with us. And it was heartbreaking because they just didn't know how to cope with it's a lot. It's a lot to sit on your lap, especially when you're younger. And and we live in a society where bullying is such a huge issue.
Bullying, you're part of an anti-bullying campaign, right?
Yes, and I my first book was an anti-bullying children's book, and I sat on a school board for several years, and that was one of my biggest things, is getting them to listen when people are telling you they're being bullied.
Right.
You choose not to. You choose to. They choose to turn an eye to it.
Right.
And it's like, look, I'm telling you, as somebody that was there, stop. Lessening what they're going through. You have to listen to them.
Right.
Because we do. And now it's so much worse because when I was younger, social media was not a thing. Cell phones weren't even a thing, and so now
it's just face-to-face bullying. Now it's online.
they get it at school or wherever, and then they go home, and then if they get attacked online. So you're not it doesn't feel like you're safe anywhere anymore because of that. So
Now, in one of our conversations, you mentioned that at one point in time you had to beg for help.
Yes.
And witness people turning their back.
Yes.
When you needed help. And to me, it sounds like there's a resolve in you that's committed to, when I see somebody that's needing help, I can't turn my back.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that? What was the exact scenario you're referencing? Or was it just repetitive?
It was repetitive, but it was, growing up in an abusive home was nobody listened. And it was, unfortunately, just recently, a family member had come out to my wife, was there when it was said, and she come out and she's like, well, we knew, but we chose to ignore it. What good is that doing anybody? I begged and pleaded for help, and nobody listened. Everybody's like, well, you're a boy, that's what the bruises and the broken bones and the scars. No, and so I truly felt like I had nowhere to turn. Everywhere I went, my mom was a nurse, stepdad was a cop. So both of those areas were, to be manipulated. The churches, they turned their back on me. And it was just, everywhere, family, they turned their back. They would rather turn a blind eye to it than to face it head on. But then to come back now, I'm almost 50 years old, and you come back now and say, oh, we knew, but we just chose to ignore it.
Right.
And it's, it's heartbreaking.
Right.
And so, people say, well, they didn't speak up. They should have said. But what good is it going to do? Nobody listens. And I want to be that person that, if there is an issue, please talk to me. It's, I don't know. And I could have gone the other direction. I could have turned to alcohol and drugs. I chose not to. It's growing up, my friends were my family, but they were all going through the same thing as I was. It was a similar situation. Right. And so all we had, was each other. And, like I said, again, I could have the cuts of the broken bones and all this. And there was always an excuse from the person that I would go talk to. Well, you're just a boy, you fell down. No, I didn't. But nobody believed because the other parties were when the door was open and people were there, everybody's like, oh, they're great people. But when that door closed, you know, and then it's one of those things where, you know, everybody's like, well, they're always. I'm not one of those ones where, you know, I have some people from my past. You know, I've learned to forgive them, and this is part of the healing process.
Okay.
Is I learned to forgive some of the people that did the worst things to me. I did not forgive them for them. I forgave them for myself because that was an anchor that was tied to me if I did not. But I also had to go back and look at how were they raised, what did they go through that made them who they were.
Right.
And there was one specific person particularly that went through some very, very horrible things that came out later in life. And at the end of the day, I had to look at that and be like, they didn't know how to be a parent. They didn't have a good start. So if you don't know how to be a parent yourself, then, you know, how can you be a good parent to me?
Right.
And, you know, I don't look at any of the bad things that I've gone through in life. I have turned into a creative outlet. I don't turn to the drugs and alcohol. I use it in a creative outlet. And so with like my writing, you know, I write scary stories, and it's like everybody's like, where do your ideas come from? It's because of that. I take those things, and I could have, again, turned them negative, and I didn't. I took a negative situation, took the negativity, and turned it to positivity.
Okay. Sounds easier
It is.
said than done.
It is very much easier said than done, but it's one
That
of those
takes
things.
practice and
It
discipline.
does.
And
You know, but being somebody that has been on, you know, kind of struggled that path on their own, you learn. You have to learn how to adapt, and you know, it's either be consumed or, you know, move forward.
Is there somebody that's helped guide you through your trauma, your healing personally, so that you can help other people heal? Or you just been blazing your own trail?
I've been doing it on my own. I mean,
Yeah.
there was really nobody to turn to because, you know, people would listen. I have very good friends, and you know, my wife and my children have been great. You know, they're at the tail end of where we are now, you know, on that journey. But no, I was. That's kind of one of those things where people would say, well, you know, don't you ever fear being alone? I've been alone.
Right.
You know, it was one of those things of, you know, adapting to it. So, you know, fear and you know, loneliness and death, those don't bother me because those are all things that I have faced.
Right. You mentioned that when I ran out of road, I paved my own road.
I did.
How do you do that practically?
It is
Somebody that's running out of road.
You know, I'm going to use the chaplain as an example. Every turn that I had taken, you know, I would get to the end and they'd be like, nope, not going to happen. Okay, well, then I'm going to turn back and I'm going to, you know, so then
Pivot,
go this direction, and nope, not going to happen. And it's like, okay, like, look, I want this bad enough, then how do I make this happen on my own? And I just took the steps. And so that started paving my way. Every time society would turn its back on me and say, yeah, nope, okay, fine. Then, like I said, I'm going to do it on my own. And that's in all aspects of my life, you know, just even with a prime example, I'll use it as my books as an example. You know, I have the first two books.
Unexpected Friends, right?
Unexpected Friends and 'Twas the Night Before Halloween. They're both in the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. I was always told that I would fail as an author and to be able to have my work published, period, and then have them in there. And then my second book went number one. And then the company would, the publishing company would, the next book that I submitted, nope, we're going to change it. That's you're stop. Like you're trying to change something,
Right.
you know, turn my work into something that it's not. And so I just said, you know what, I'm just going to do it on my own. And that's exactly what I've done.
Okay.
So it's, if somebody tells you no, you know, okay, that door is not supposed to
You
open.
find a way to get a yes.
Yeah, I will find
even if I
another
have to
door.
create my own yes.
Yes, you know, and it's so there's all of these things in life where, you know, nope, you're not going to, nope, then I will find a way to do it.
And it sounds like you've dedicated your books and basically your life to these haters or people, or to these people that are giving you no's. You call them haters, motivators, whatever you want to call them. They motivate you.
I will. In the books, the last three, were, I said in there, there were specific people that I wanted it to be mentioned. And it was the last group of people that were mentioned was to all of my haters. I said, the more you hated and the more you pushed back and told me I would fail, all that did was fuel my fire to make it happen. And that's exactly what I do.
Okay. That's crazy.
And it's hard for people. I know people that, I'm dealing with somebody right now that, he states, he's like, how do you handle, they're dealing with their own path and they're getting pushed back. And he's like, how do you handle it? I'm like, you can't worry about what everybody else thinks.
Right.
Their opinion does not matter. Their opinion does not pay your bills. Their opinions, they're not giving you the love that you need.
Right.
So, you have to do this for yourself, not for others. And that's in my creative side of things. The things I create, I'm creating of things that I would want to read, that I would want to watch, because it's your passion that's going into it.
Right.
Because if you try to do it for other people, then you're trying to figure out, okay, well, what's this person going to like? It's not going to work that way.
Right.
You have to put yourself into it, not others.
So your personal training as well.
Yes.
So you do a lot of different stuff like we talked about. Where do you feel the best use of your time, energy, and resources goes to, if you were to niche out your market?
I just, again, the
trauma,
the helping the people, just being at the gym. People will come up. There's a few people there that are amputees, and to see they'll come to see somebody that understands what I'm going through. That helps them.
Right.
To be able to, and that's me and my wife's whole mission here is to.
Is she on board with the?
She is. So she is her. So it's Autumn Life Coaching is a whole business. She is Autumn Life Yoga.
Okay.
And we have a website for that as well. And we actually travel. So we have the studio, but then we do work with elderly homes, and we do work with a facility here in Omaha.
On the yoga side?
Yep.
Okay.
And then we do work with a facility here in Omaha called the Vessel Network, which is special needs adults. It's a beautiful facility. A friend of ours is one of the owners. And then now she's going to in October. She is going to get certified as a yoga instructor for amputees. Wow. And she will be the only one certified in a 5-state radius. And so with us working with, we just here recently, I had a meeting with Bellevue University, their veteran service program. And so I'll be going in there and helping work with them. And then, like I said, the nutrition side of things. I had a heart attack 9 years ago. And so
you've been through the ringer.
Yeah. And so to be able to give people, you always ask people, how's your eating? Oh, I could do better. Right. Okay. Well, it's showing them how to do it. And so I actually created a nutrition plan based off of myself. And, since November, I'm down 50 pounds. Wow. And it's a world of difference because I wanted to be able to say, look, I put the work in. Right. Here's what I've done. My numbers, my health numbers and everything's dropped. I want them to know I understand. Here's what's going on. Right. You put the work in, here can be your results, but you have to be dedicated to doing it. Right. So knowing that we can help people mentally, physically, and nutritionally is important.
Yeah, it sounds like a wellness. What's the tagline on there?
On this, for the Autumn Life Coaching, it's autumn leaves don't fall, they fly. Okay. So it's kind of that understanding of autumn is my favorite time of the year. It's when, it's when nature shows its true beauty.
So this is fall. Autumn is between fall and winter?
Yes.
Okay.
Or between summer and winter.
Okay.
Fall. And, the colors of the leaves, everything's so beautiful. Then, for people to think that, well, the tree's just dropping its leaves. If you watch them fall down. Like they sway in the wind. But it's also, it shows kind of that rebirth. Right. It's the end of one stage and
new
the
season
beginning of another.
Yep.
And so it's always been, autumn leaves don't fall, they fly.
Right. Lastly, in conclusion, you said, my past has made me a better person.
Yes.
In conclusion, to sum it up, how has your past, because you, like I just mentioned, you've been through the ringer literally, how has that made you a better person?
It has taught me. I always tell people, don't live in regret. It's lessons gained, no regrets, lessons gained.
Okay.
And you know, all of the things that I have gone through has made me a better father, because
Husband. We could just go right down the
friends. You know, it taught me what not to do.
So you learned the hard way.
I did, and I would do it all over again if it meant that for even just a fraction of a second, that my kids and my wife never had to go through what I went through.
Right.
You know, and I don't know. It's just I always tell people, because I'll get people to come up, oh, I'm so sorry for you. Don't. Please don't. No.
They don't know your story
No.
yet.
And I always tell people, I said, I was given a gift to help others. My gift came in a different packaging. And so a lot of times people will judge a gift by the way it's wrapped.
Right.
And some of the best gifts could be in a really crappy wrap job. And, you know, I also always said, if I had given, you know, if the opportunity had come and I was told you could have your arm and leg back, you've learned everything you need to learn, I would not take it.
Wow.
Because I am who I am because of what I went through. Would it make life easier? Yes. Would it make life better? No. And easy is the easy way out. You know, I would rather, this is a badge of honor to me, because, you know, it's, your scars show you that life failed at trying to take you away.
Oh. I think we'll end on that note. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
I'm glad we had this conversation.
I
Really
appreciate
inspiring, and thanks for taking the time, sharing your story, and you're making a huge impact in people's lives.
I appreciate that.
I'm not sure where Autumn's going to scale to, but I mean, you're on to bigger and better things, especially when your wife's on board.
Yep.
Maybe someday your son, right?
Yeah, I hope so. Yep.
But you're definitely trailblazing a path and making a huge impact.
And we're doing things. There's really not, you know, I always stress to people, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a psychologist, and, you know, but I don't feel that those are always the best fit for people.
Right.
And we just want to be able to better people's lives, and, you know, we try to find this as our way of doing it.
That's powerful. Thanks again. I appreciate you being here.
you.
Thanks again, Royalty Roofing and Siding, and we'll see you next time on the Nick and Nick podcast.